Have you ever wondered how mindset affects homeschooling? Join me today for our final of 3 conversations with Emily Bradley of Easy Start Homeschooling, where we talk about just that. And you'll want to stay till the very end, where Emily shares a beautiful testimony about how God helped her family overcome a major obstacle in their homeschooling.
I was all alone, but then you came along.
Well, welcome back. I'm so excited to be with Emily Bradley again. And if you haven't watched our first 2 episodes, you need to check them out. We have discussed her philosophy, which is freedom and joy in homeschooling. Then our second episode, we've talked about some practical, how she homeschools. She has predominantly elementary age students. Her children are ages, there's 5 from the ages of 2 to 13. And so she's just entering those middle school years, and been really enjoying that and been exciting. But it was just really helpful to talk to her about elementary age, what to expect, and how you can go about that academically. So that was great. So you want to check that out. And so now we're back together for our third and I think final episode. Kind of sad for that. We'll have to have you back. But she is going to talk to us a little bit about homeschooling obstacles and mindset. And I don't know if I mentioned yet on this episode, but she is the founder of Easy Start Homeschool. So you can look her up online. All right, Emily, well, I'm so glad to have you back. And yeah, so tell us about obstacles and mindset.
So I'll start with mindset. And I think when in my experience in working with parents as they make a transition, usually, before COVID, right? Now everybody's homeschooled. But before COVID, when people make this transition from, being in the school system, kids in school, to homeschooling, they often think that the biggest things they need to think about or focus on are curriculum or the laws, the legal situation. But from the perspective of a homeschooling parent, there's a huge mindset change. And some of those changes, I'm still working through whether or not they can be told to someone. I was just saying the other day that to a group of young parents, I was like, you know how you try to prepare for being a parent, but then when you become a parent and you have this little baby and you go through this experience of my life is not my own, you have to really have that trial by fire experience of, now I know what it means to be a parent. Now I know what it means to have someone depending on me 24/7, and I can't just do whatever I want whenever I want. I can't just go to the bathroom whenever I want, or just any number of things. And you think, nobody could have explained this to me. This is something that had to be learned by experience. And sometimes I still wonder if that those things exist in homeschooling, that no one can really fully explain to you and have you understand what it means to homeschool. And that homeschooling is really allowing your child's interests, personality, desires to blossom in a healthy way. And you are there nurturing like the gardener. You're the gardener of your children's lives. No one can really explain to you just kind of like the relationship dynamics, and not struggles, but just the ups and downs of relationship that you'll go through with your children. No one can explain that, you're not a teacher, you're a guide, you're a mentor, you're a gardener. And so sometimes I think, even though as much as I try to say them to people, sometimes I think they'll get it in a few years. When they do it, they'll say, oh, I see. I thought I was pulling my child out because my child was being bullied. But now I see I've pulled my child out so that we can have a close relationship. Or I see I've pulled my child out because so now my spouse can spend more time with them. And yeah, I realized that, speaking of like spouses, I realized early on that homeschooling was so valuable because it wasn't just me. So my husband was working. It wasn't just me that was getting a better relationship with my kids, but my husband would go to work and he would come home and I would say, today so-and-so did this. Today so-and-so said that. This happened and these two got in a huge fight. Or, I became the bridge for my husband's relationship with the kids too, because then he, through me, knew them even though he wasn't there. And so these types of little nuanced joys and difficulties, you start to understand after time that this is the real deal with homeschooling. The real struggle is just life, and the real rubber meets the road is you're walking with your children through things that we all face in life, good things, bad things, but you're there with them.
And I think, like you said too, that I like how you said you wonder if you can explain it. You can give a heads up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter and I was teaching at a school, and the secretary said to me, she said, enjoy the last few days where, she said, because after today you go to the end of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, I've never really quite bought even what she said. Okay. But I think the idea that, your life is changing, it's going from you to, now you're responsible for somebody 24/7 and so on. But for me, one of the things, and this is going to sound funny, but one of the things that I was shocked of transitioning to a parent was how much I loved my daughter.
Yeah.
Now, I love people deeply, and I love children. I taught children, and I loved them. But there was a different love when I had my kids. And this is so bad, Emily. I said to my mother, I said, Mom, did you love me this much? Which of course she did. But, that huge love. And the reason I say that when going with homeschooling is you're right. You transition and your priorities change and your mindset grows as you homeschool. Because at the beginning, exactly, there's a nudging and maybe a thought of, well, I should do this because of this. I mean, as I grew in as a homeschooling parent, and through the process, I became more and more convinced that this was valuable and important, more sold on it, more passionate, and just saw so many more benefits that I didn't even think of at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I do agree that part of it is walking it out. But I wonder, just as we're talking, I wonder if a person doesn't stay with homeschooling because they never quite embrace that mindset change. Mm-hmm. If their foot is too much in the other world, so to speak, then they're trying to emulate that at home, or they're trying to walk both paths. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, so I want to keep every door open. They don't make it. You have to really commit for as long as you're going to do it. Like, meaning, even if you only did it for a year, you need to be fully in that year.
Right. Not just biding your time and trying it and see if it'll work. Right.
When we talked earlier, you were talking about when you were online sometimes, and just recently, you had mentioned a parent on a site and what she was talking about as a beginning homeschooler, and I think a younger parent, and you were talking about your response to her. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It was just, I follow a number of, sometimes when I have spare time and I just want to not blow off steam, I can't think of the right expression, but I go on these little Facebook, on these little groups, and moms are asking questions, a ton of questions. And I just say, oh, try this, do that. And so she had said, I'm doing XYZ with my 4 and 6-year-olds. And this was a pretty large group of homeschoolers. And I was one of the first ones to answer. And I said, okay, look, what's about to happen is that all the experienced homeschool moms are about to get on and say, your kids are only 4 and 6. Don't worry. Just let them play. At that age, they don't need to be learning anything. Just let them play for fun. And I said, but I know where you are. And I know that your oldest is 6 and you have a little bit of energy and you want to, mom it up. You want to, get out there and teach your child things. And I was like, so, just do as much as you want to do. The experienced moms are right that at that age, just teach them how to read aloud to them and let them play. But if you want to do more and that makes you happy and excited, do that. But don't feel like there is some strict thing that you have to meet and you have to tick all these boxes or else your child is not educated, because that is not how it is. I think I told her, put your own airplane mask on first. I always tell that to moms, while they tell you, do your own mask before the child, So if you're not happy, if you're stressed and you're burnt out, your child is not going to be thriving. So it's better if you're like, every once in a while, guess what? School's canceled. We're going to get Slurpees. I love Slurpees, than to feel like, oh, I have to do this. I have to keep pushing, and you're miserable and you're making everyone else miserable. Can't do Slurpee day is not every day.
Right. No, but I like how you said too, if you want to do more, by all means do more, because you have the energy and you're excited and you're enjoying it. But don't feel that pressure for Louis the Law, who is saying you have to be here by this age and your child has to demonstrate these skills. And if you don't, they're not good. And that kind of pressure that I think a lot of parents come into homeschooling with is the fear that their children they're not going to help them. And then they just drive them and drive and push. And then they're stressed and the kids are stressed. So I think that was excellent advice. I like it.
Sometimes I see parents say they need to step away from homeschooling because they say, my child needs a mom and I can't be the teacher and the mom. And, I don't always know the details, and maybe they do need to step away for legitimate reasons. But I also think that sometimes when you're saying, I'm the teacher, here's what we have to accomplish, that maybe you've gotten too far on that side of saying what's most important is that we accomplish these things. Right. And then the relationship is somehow something different. But I think there is a way to meld both things and say, I am your mom, but I love you, and we're going to learn together. And that sounds very kind of idealistic, and there's a lot
more, but we don't have time to unpack that. But I do think it is a good thing to point out that maybe there's a drive there that needs to just be looked at, what the expectations are, and maybe look at that, because the relationship is such a powerful piece.
Yes.
And yes, you take on, there's some elements of structure that when you're just mom maybe aren't there fully, Yeah, I think that's maybe it's an important thing to stop and look and say, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And where is the imbalance? And how can I best address it?
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to end with, I love this testimony of yours, and I wanted to put it under this section of obstacles and mindsets because I think it's such a beautiful example of a journey, a walk by faith, goodness of God, perseverance. But you actually, Emily is actually a lawyer, right? I should have been better what I was saying. So you are actually a lawyer, and you have, you obviously went to school, you were pregnant with your son. Tell me when he was born again in terms of your degree.
He was born, my husband and I got married after my first year of law school, and our son was born 3 weeks after I graduated.
Which is just amazing. Okay, so you're pregnant, you have this baby 3 weeks after. Okay, and then you went back, you got your bar.
I took the bar the next summer, yeah.
And if I'm correct, you had some substantial debt.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had a lot of debt from law school, like most people do. And I had been on kind of a track of, when I was 12, I was probably a little bit precocious and argumentative, like many 12-year-olds.
Any 12-year-old like that.
And people started saying, you should be a lawyer. And I was like, okay, maybe this is my calling. I'm good at this. And so in my mind, it was like, I'm going to go to law school at some point. I didn't really think too much about it. And probably, I think I was on this track of like, get A's, do good in school, just go through, do what everybody's telling you to do, and then you graduate. And nobody ever stopped me to say, and then what?
Yeah.
What's after that? And I think that is, among many other reasons, a major one why I wanted to homeschool is because I felt like there was never any time to pause while I was building my resume for college and say, what do I really want to do in life? What is God calling me to do? Who am I as a person? But yeah, I was on that track, and I graduated from law school. I took the bar, and then I was having the experience, like I told you in the previous episode, about people saying, enjoy these years with your baby. These are the years. And I was never like, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna go to a law firm. I was more like, well, we'll see. But their comments really did impact me. And I said, you know what? I don't think, well, first of all, I liked being home with my son. So I was one of those people that was like, oh, I like motherhood. But then also I thought, when I'm old, I bet I'm not going to be like, I really should have worked, And so that put us on a journey, despite my massive loans, of trying to figure out how we could make me staying home with our kids work. And we had purchased a condo at the height of the housing bubble. And in retrospect, maybe that was a poor decision that millions of other people were also making.
You and millions, that's right.
Right. And so we were in this condo and kind of stuck there because our mortgage, is it reverse mortgage? What? Not a reverse mortgage, but we were underwater. We could not sell this condo, and it was in not a great neighborhood. It was, anyway, it was a rough neighborhood, but we bought it thinking this is all we can afford. We're going to invest, we want a home, we're married, and so when we decided that I was going to stay home, it meant our family was not going to be able to be on this typical path of now we both work and we put our child in daycare and now we can afford to get a little house in a better neighborhood. It meant that we were in this condo for 8 years. You know, in a really rough neighborhood where people would stop me frequently and ask if I was lost, or, you know, or tell me I shouldn't be raising kids here, or, you know, but to us, we really felt like we were making a choice, you know, it was a priority, and that was where we had to live. And so some people might say, well, you're making the wrong choice. But to us, this was how we were overcoming that obstacle of finances, is saying, okay, maybe we're not doing on the path that society says is right. I feel like I've used air quotes about 14 times during our interviews. But, you know, that was the choice we made. And so, you know, when I hear other parents now and they talk about, I want to homeschool, but I can't because both my husband and I work, because I have to take care of, you know, an aging parent or a disabled child, or because of where we live, or because of, you know, different factors. Our house is too small, or, you know, I have too many kids, I'm going to have a baby. Any number of reasons. I think a little bit, where there's a will, there's a way. And it doesn't mean, I don't know, but it can mean that you may need to change something, that something you may have to sacrifice, but I would think of it as a reprioritizing.
I like that. And so you did this journey anyway. You stayed home. There were some limitations because some of the choices you had made, and part of that was the law school debt, right? And then the purchase of this condo and being upside down. Yeah. What I like is, there was a humility. I think also too, that a humility of, well, these are the choices we've made, but these are our priorities. And so we're just going to humbly walk it out. And I think faith.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah. So then we got a huge surprise. I was on the phone with my granddad, who is, you know, lives in a very small rural town in East Texas, you know, and it's just very, you know, grandparentish. So I was on the phone with my granddad, and I said, you know, we're just so excited. I was just telling him, I said, we're so excited that, you know, we have a plan to pay down our debt. And, you know, we're focusing on right now my highest interest law school loan. I was telling him all the plans, and, you know, and I was like, and then we think in 8 more years, we'll be able to have enough money for a down payment for a house, because we couldn't sell our condo because it was underwater. And he said, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. And he called me a week later and he said, you know, I have an annuity that I think I just want to cash in and give it to you as an interest-free loan to pay off your law school loans. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't think he knows how much they are, you know? And I was like, you know, Granddad, we're talking about like $70,000 here. And he said, yep, that'll cover it, you know? And so he paid off my loans, which was not a silver bullet. But it just cut down the time. It meant that we only had to save for 2 more years, you know, for a down payment to a house. And we still live in a very affordable area, probably what was one of the last affordable areas in DC. But we're very happy with our neighborhood, and now we have a cute little house, and that was such a blessing. And really, it was a testimony for us of when you put your priorities in order, you know, it's something that God can bless you not like he blessed us because we chose to homeschool, but when you're answering the call of your heart and you feel the leading to move in that way, then God is going to support you. If you say, I'm going to follow despite the obstacles, then God will bless you, and God will open doors that you didn't even know were there. So.
And what I love about that is you're not in a $1 million, well, maybe, I don't know, you're not in a very affluential neighborhood. You're still living somewhat modestly, let's say, but you're not in danger anymore.
Yeah.
You've moved your kids out of
Everyone in DC is in danger. Let's just say anyone in a city anywhere is in danger. No, we love our neighborhood. Yes, but it's not a fancy neighborhood.
Right. But what I'm saying is that God blessed you. Your grandfather saw probably your commitment, again, your humility, and the passion of your choice, and saw that it was honorable and was able to help you. And so you got both. And I just love it as a reminder. We don't do those things and then expect that these things are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, well, if I do this, then my grandfather's going to call me.
Right.
But you can say, like you said, if I trust God, if he is calling me to do this, I can trust him. He will meet me along the way, and he will make it possible. And Emily, I am finished homeschooling in my home. I homeschool other people's children. I'm so grateful people keep having kids. So I deal with a lot of kids, and I love it. But when I did finish, I wondered if I would say, oh, I'm amazing. You know what I'm saying? Would I think, wow, look what I did? Or wow, look what we did? Or would I say, oh, I'm so glad that's over? Like, what would be my response? But I can sincerely say it was, wow, God, you were faithful. Because in the process, there's lots of times that there are things that you're experiencing that you're thinking, how am I going to get through this? I remember raking the lawn one day and saying to the Lord, just 6 more years. Can you just sustain us for 6 more years? Because we were in some trauma, who knows what, or we'd face so many obstacles. But day by day, God met us. And at the end, I was overcome with awe for him. And so I love what you're saying, and I thought your testimony was so powerful because you didn't have it all figured out before you started. And I just think that's important for people to hear. We don't. It's through the process, and I think God kind of likes that because he is, we walk with him daily, and he provides for us daily. Sometimes he shows us a little bit of the future. Sometimes there's a little, we make our plans and we see some things up front. But ultimately, he's with us daily, and he is faithful. So that's exciting.
That's true. Amen.
Well, thank you so much for just taking the time to be with us here. As I said, she is Easy Start Homeschool. So look her up. And we hope that this has really encouraged you on your process. If you're thinking about homeschooling, hopefully some of these discussions are helping you to process with us those answers or some different angles. And if you are homeschooling, we hope that this is encouragement for you to keep going. You're doing great. You're working hard. And God will walk with you faithfully. I hope you'll join us again on the Home Educated Mind. But until then, we'll see you later. And again, thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
God bless you. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and that it's helped increase your confidence in homeschooling. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out the Yes You Can Homeschool equipping course at thehomeeducatedmind.com. And until the next time, remember, yes, you can homeschool.